And then finally, it was this idea of the novelistic conversion, the idea that the greatest novels are always the fruit of some kind of conversion experience in the life of the author, which may be explicitly a turn to Christianity and Catholicism, but may also just be sort of structurally congruent with religious conversion,
Hmm.
as in, say, Proust or Flaubert. This idea that a conversion experience was at the origin at the foundation of great novels made me take the idea of conversion very seriously, frankly, because I wanted to write a great novel. And I thought, well,
Wow.
if, uh, if in order to write a great novel, I have to be converted, maybe it's time for me to seek out conversion.
Wow. That's really fascinating. And, one thing that does kind of, it makes Girard sound very appealing, actually, the way you just described it, because um, there's something mentioned in the documentary that he applied his own theories to himself, that it wasn't just a historical or a literary analysis, that these things were actually applicable to the real life and to the spiritual life, and that he wasn't just doing it, abstractly and academically, and that makes him a compelling figure to me.
Yeah, it made him a compelling figure to me too when I finally met him around 2005, and then was able to work with him pretty closely because I started to work closely with his editor and later his biographer Benoit Chantre, who's a French intellectual and essayist and editor. And when I finally met Girard, what impressed me first of all, and I think it has impressed many others who met him, was just how clear it was that he was a completely unpretentious man with a great sense of humor and very little self-seriousness.
Hmm.
And so you thought, okay, well, what he's saying about renouncing vanity and envy and jealousy and all these things, he's not just paying lip service to these things. This is clearly something that he has undergone in his own life because the evidence is right there in front of you. And I do think that the story of his conversion is fascinating. He was trained as a medieval historian. He came to the U.S. after the war in 1947, and we tell this story a little bit very quickly in the documentary. And just because he was French and could speak French and sort of ostensibly had some cultural knowledge of France and French literature, he was asked to teach French literature. But the truth was that he didn't really know any of these classic novels that well, and he hadn't even read some of them. And so he was asking himself, like, what am I going to do? What am I going to say to these kids? And so he searched through the novels for something to say, and he stumbled upon this pattern, which is that he realized that the heroes of a lot of these novels, by say Stendhal, The Red and the Black, this novel about Julien Sorel, a very ambitious young provincial uh, Frenchman in the 1820s, who wants to be like Napoleon. This guy, he wants to be like Napoleon, and that sort of influences everything that he does, and sort of gives him a specific worldview where all of his desires and all of his perceptions are filtered through this Napoleonic ideal. So that he found a similar pattern in Don Quixote, which was a book that he loved since he was a child. And I think the pattern is quite clear there. Don Quixote wants to be this awesome knight who can go out and defeat anybody, cut giants in half and rescue, fair maidens and so on. But the reason he wants to do that is because he's been reading about these amazing knights in these romances of chivalry. And so again, his whole worldview is filtered through this model or this hero, and so on and so forth, in other European novels. So he finds this pattern, and then as he's exploring the conclusions of these novels, where many of the characters have these deathbed experiences where they renounce their mad quests to become an awesome knight or to become Napoleon or what have you, um, he was asking himself, like, should we take these conclusions seriously?
Hmm.
Like when when uh, when Don Quixote sort of wakes up from his madness and says, "Well, by God's grace, um, I'm no longer deluded. I don't have this impossible dream anymore, and now I hate these books of chivalry that were sort of uh, ruling my life." Is that just sort of a rhetorical device that's tacked on to the ends of these novels to make them acceptable to the ambient culture, or is there something deeper going on? And I think it was probably while he was reflecting on Proust and Dostoevsky in particular that he started to think and really believe that what was going on in these endings was really existential, that somehow the novelist was owning up via these characters in his own life to these obsessions that had been ruling his life and that were unhealthy and that were leading him into all of these impasses and dead ends. And that by writing the death of the character, the novelist was somehow exercising his own demons. And then it started to happen to him, to Girard himself, as he was reflecting on this.